Good afternoon. This is Dr. Duncan McCollum coming to you from KSCO Radio in Santa Cruz. And what an amazing, amazing day it is out here today. I'm so happy to have a good friend, Ben Azadi here, who's a health coach, and he's been working with the ketogenic diet for some time. He's the founder of the Keto Kamp. And I'm so glad to have you here, Ben. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Dr. Duncan, thank you for having me here. I'm grateful to be here with you all. So I'm the founder of Keto Kamp, and what we do is we teach these ancient healing strategies that you teach, right? Ketogenic living, intermittent fasting, different variations of fasting. We teach these ancestral principles that have been around since humans have been around. And we know when we incorporate this in this day and age, especially, the body will heal. So we figure out what are some things interfering with the body from healing, remove the interference, allow the body to heal. And we do that through our YouTube platform, podcast, on interviews like this. And we're committed to educating and inspiring 1 billion people on this information.
That is amazing, and that's an amazing goal, and I love it. So, you and I've known each other for quite a while, and we've been working with changing people's lives, and as it turns out, quite quickly and quite dramatically. And the one thing for me is being in the healthcare profession for 30 years, and being a chiropractor, is I've seen so many changes just chiropractically. But over the years, what I've noticed is people weren't getting well as quickly as they used to. And, you and I work with one of our mentors, Dr. Dan Pampa, who's really opened our eyes to, how the heavy metals and the other toxins in the environment are stopping us from being able to get healthy, or stopping in chiropractic the patient from getting well with just a few adjustments. And one thing that we know by doing this intermittent fasting and the ketogenic diet, we're actually getting the inflammation out of the body and out of the cells so that the body can start to heal well. So what have you noticed with the people you work with? And maybe give us a couple examples of what you've seen.
Yeah, I love keto and fasting because they go hand in hand, right? They both do a great job at helping the body reduce inflammation, as you said, if done right, right? Because they're so popular nowadays that there's the wrong way to do it. So the way we teach it is going upstream looking at it at a cellular level. So some of the things I've seen are remarkable. I've seen clients of mine who are in my program stop taking insulin, no longer need the insulin. They say they gave back their insulin to their doctor, but they don't technically do that. That was just a phrase they used, but they stopped using their insulin. They were able to reverse type 2 diabetes. And this is in a short amount of time, right? This isn't just 3 months, sometimes 4 months, sometimes just 60 days. Somebody could go from being type 2 diabetic to no longer needing insulin or medication and having stable blood sugar levels because they've taught their body to stop spiking glucose so often. They taught their hormones to be more sensitive, and when that happens, the body will heal. So keto is what I look at it as a lifestyle more than a diet. It's a metabolic process that's been around since humans have been around, and when you tap into it and flex in and out of ketosis, that's the way that all 70 trillion cells that we have in the body are designed to be. Then you add fasting into the mix, you get some of that autophagy, you get some of those stem cells that you talk about all the time, and it's just a match made in heaven.
Yeah, it is really an amazing thing just to see what happens to a body when you start to give it healthy food. It's like, for instance, I had a patient in my last go around. We just finished our last class last week, and we had 5 or 6 of our participants do the 5-day water fast. And which was cool because sometimes people aren't quite ready to do that as we go through the program. Some of them have a lot harder time getting their body into what we call ketosis, and we can talk about that in a minute. And other people get into it a lot quicker. But the very cool thing about getting into the water fast is that we see remarkable results with inflammation going away, the brain fog going away, people's aches and pains reducing. And I had this one patient, actually, it was only 3 weeks into it, and she's actually got a different chiropractor who's a good friend of mine. And but she came to me for this class, and she raised her hand on week 3, and all we'd done is change the food that we put into her body. And she said, I see a chiropractor weekly and have for years, but I've always had this hip pain. And I didn't change anything else but the food I ate, and my hip pain's gone away. How do you explain that? So how would you explain that?
Well, inflammation, right? Also, at week 3, was she doing any fasting yet or no?
Yeah, yeah. Wait, week 3, all she had done is stop eating, only eat 3 meals a day, stop all of her
Yeah.
snacking, 3 keto meals a day. And I think we had just started skipping a meal, so changing our eating window.
Yes. So what happened was she went from being a sugar burner, which is we know is a toxic fuel source, and she converted to burning fat and producing ketones. So the analogy I like to give is sugar is a toxic fuel source. So compare that to like a Mack truck that is speeding through the highway with all the smoke coming out of the exhaust pipe. It's not going to be good for the environment, right? When you convert like what you just taught her to do and what you're teaching so many to instead switch over to burning fat and producing ketones, that's like a Tesla cruising through the highway, much cleaner for the environment. And when you do that within your cells, it's a dramatic way to reduce inflammation. And for her, her pain was reduced because she reduced inflammation. She got to the cause, and her symptom, which is not the problem, it was a result of the problem. Her symptom went away as a side effect of getting to the cause. So that's what we teach here, right? Cause and effect. When you go upstream, when you teach the body to burn fat instead of sugar, the symptoms and the side effects go away by default.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing when we talk about, or when you mention going upstream. A lot of times, what I've noticed, and I'm sure you have too, is so much of our country is dependent on medication. So many, I think we take 70% of all the drugs made in the world, and we're only 4% of the world population, and we're still rated 50th in the world for health. So heck, if drugs work, we'd be the healthiest country in the world, but we're not. So what we've seen, in chiropractors and health and alternative healthcare professionals for years have been trying to get people away from the medications with their doctor's approval, and go towards a more herbal way of healing their body. But what I've seen, and I know you have too, is we've seen, instead of taking the medication, they're taking the herbs, but just to cover up the symptoms. So now they're taking those herbs forever. Now, is that a good thing or not?
I mean, it'll work short term, but it's not getting to the cause, right? So, yeah, I think there's a time and place for it as like a targeted support, like we do. But if you remain on it, the body will eventually become more deaf to that scream, right? It won't work long term because it's not getting to the cause. So you're right. It's a new problem, right? We have the medication nation that we live in, which we know is just like that whack-a-mole game at the arcade with the mole. A mole pops up, the symptom, and you hit that mole with a hammer, and you feel good short term, and then another mole pops up. But we should be asking the question, why are there moles in the first place? And they don't ask that question when you're just giving an herb or a supplement or a medication. So yeah, it's not going to get long-term results, only short-term.
Yeah, and so we are basically, I was talking to, actually, I think I was talking to Dr. Pompa about this. It's like, if you have a boat, and the boat, you're out in the ocean, the boat's got a leak in it, and you start bailing the boat. You could use a man-made metal bucket, or you could use a piece of wood that's natural. So you can bail as much as you want with the bucket, which would be like man-made drugs, or herbs, which would be the wooden bowl. But until you plug the hole, you're going to be bailing forever, and the quality of your life is not going to be good because you're going to be working the whole time. Your body's going to be working to try to heal itself. So I think that I'm really glad you brought up the upstream cause of the problem, because I think that's something that most people don't understand what we're talking about. So why don't you tell us how you explain it, then I'll fill in how I do, and we'll see if we can get our audience to understand a little bit more from two different viewpoints.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that analogy with the boat because they're still sinking. They're just sinking slower, right? But they're suffering the whole time. So there's a better way. Cover up the hole, right? That's what upstream is. And you explained it very well. So it's what Dr. Pompa says all the time. If you want to get well, you have to fix the cell, right? So when you look at the body at a cellular level, we have 70 trillion cells, and we know that the cells create energy. The same way, if I was going to burn firewood here and have smoke, the cells create energy, creates ATP, and a healthy cell could remove that cellular smoke and then get in the nutrients, get in the hormones. So everything that we talk about, Duncan, talks about how to get that cell to function well. Now, when you do a healthy keto lifestyle and a variation of fasting and feasting, we know that we're hardwired for that. Our mitochondria, our DNA is hardwired for feast famine cycles. And When we start doing fasting, specifically more of the block fasting that you teach, and we get that autophagy, which is that cellular recycling. The analogy that I give for autophagy, by the way, to help really help make sense for people, is that person in the grocery store in the produce section who you always see when you go to the supermarket. He's working there. He's in the produce section. He's looking for expired produce, right? He's looking for that banana that has a brown peel. He's looking for a browned apple, and he's taking it and removing it from the produce section and then putting a fresh produce in there. Well, when we fast, the body turns on this autophagy switch, and it does the same thing in our cells. It's like Pac-Man going within our cells, cleaning out house. And if the body determines that this cell is no longer functioning, then it just destroys that cell via apoptosis, produces a new stem cell, which is a much healthier cell. And that's exactly what root cause health is, upstream health is. The body has that amazing capability to heal. And what we're doing here is just allowing the body to do its thing, to do what we've been processed and programmed to do. And that's, in my definition, what upstream health is.
Wow, I really love that, and so what Ben is talking about is, as our cells divide and divide, which our cells always divide, we start with one egg and one sperm, and then all of a sudden that one stem cell turns into an eyeball or a ear or a kidney or a toe or a liver or a kidney, what have you. So as those cells go through their life cycle and they divide and the old one dies, basically we have these little things on the end of our DNA called telomeres that get shorter and shorter and shorter. It's kind of like if you go down to the pond and they have these things called horsetails. I don't know if you ever played with them. You pull off one section at a time, and they're like ancient from prehistoric times. And when you have no more sections, there's no more horsetail. And that's kind of how our cells' lifestyle goes. As long as there's telomeres, they're alive. But once it can't divide anymore, that cell becomes a piece of rotten fruit in your produce department. And it either hangs out because our immune system is no longer strong enough based on all the toxins in the environment and who knows what else. Our body can't go destroy that cell like it used to. So one of the problems is that cell now is an old cell. We call it senescent for senile. And it either acts like what I call a bored teenager and just causes trouble, and it pokes its neighbor and, starts to infect the cells next to it, or it just mutates into something like a cancer cell, and then it causes all kinds of trouble. So the more that we can teach people to do this thing that you're talking about called autophagy, which is the body eating itself, and it's eating the bad cells, the more we can teach it to do that, the younger we stay, and the more or the easier our body is destroying these old cells so we can make room for the new ones.
Yeah, I love that. The body is amazing and has this innate intelligence within it that it will go for the bad stuff first, like you just said. It'll seek out the damaged cells, the damaged protein, the damaged mitochondria, these senescent cells, these teenagers who are bored. Also, I call them zombie cells as well. They could be also referred to as that. And out of the 70 trillion cells that we have, it turns out that about 70 billion of them need to be recycled and cleaned out every single day. Now, if we're eating every 2 to 3 hours, if we're eating high carbohydrates, high protein, we're never allowing this process to occur. So what ends up happening is, like you said, these cells that are damaged, they start to duplicate, and they turn into cancerous cells. And then all of a sudden, we become another statistic, because we know that 1 out of 3 women in America are diagnosed with cancer in their lifetime. And we know 1 out of 2 men are diagnosed with cancer in their lifetime. And we don't want to become another statistic, because we have the power to heal, and you have such a powerful tool at your disposal that's free, called autophagy.
Yeah, that's amazing. Those statistics are astounding. So 1 out of 3 women are going to be diagnosed with cancer, and 1 out of 2 men in our lifetime. And I think
that's where the stats are right now.
Yeah, and then when we look at the Alzheimer's rate too, which is, the brain being damaged as well with toxins and heavy metals. And, they say that the diabetes, the kind of the too much insulin in our blood actually gets into our brain and actually starts to lay down this plaque like we get on our teeth that stops the communication in our brain, which messes up our memory and causes all kinds of, who wants to live that way?
Yeah, we don't. So the goal is to live longer, but also live longer healthy, right? Because yes, we might be living longer, but if we're not healthy and vibrant, what's the point of living longer? We want to do both, be healthy and live longer.
Absolutely. So just for you out there listening, we're going to go to a commercial break here and we'll be right back. Hi, this is Dr. Duncan McCollum, and I want to invite you to attend my new workshop starting on March 18th. It's going to be our 7th time through our 7-week cellular healing lifestyle program. We're going to go over how to intermittent fast and how to do the ketogenic diet, along with ancient healing strategies and getting your body healthy again. And we're going to do this on a level that you can actually achieve this and get incredible results. So we've put well over 100 people through this course with outstanding results. If you're interested, call 831-459-9990. That's McCollum Family Chiropractic, Dr. Duncan McCollum, 831-459-9990. Okay, I'm back here with Ben Azadi, founder of the Keto Kamp, and we're talking about how to implement the ketogenic diet along with the intermittent fasting. And Ben, it's so good for you to be here. I know this was short term. We got a hold of you today, and you said, I'll do it, because we're both so excited about what we're doing. We're so excited to get people to understand that your body has the power to heal itself. And if we just stop poisoning it and we start feeding it the right type of foods, the body can heal. And one of the things that we see, and we see this in the newspapers, we see it in the front of magazines, we hear it on the news. Chronic disease is caused by chronic inflammation. Heart disease, chronic inflammation. Alzheimer's disease, chronic inflammation. And now we're at a war on figuring out what medication is going to stop that chronic inflammation as quickly as possible, or not, maybe just kind of sustain it. But what do we really need to do? What are we missing here? What's causing the chronic inflammation?
Yeah, that's the question, right? So we understand that because we know that there's a cause and an effect. There's not just an effect. Cancer does not just show up overnight. It takes about 10 years on average for cancer to grow and be diagnosed. So one of my favorite quotes is from Albert Einstein, and he said, "Intellectuals solve problems, geniuses prevent them." So what we're doing here, we're geniuses, Duncan, because we're teaching people to be proactive here, not reactive. Yeah, you could have a medication that might help with inflammation, might help lower your cholesterol, it might help short term, but is it really getting to the cause? No, because then there's going to be a whole host of other side effects. It's like it's just not going to work long term. So what is the root cause of inflammation? Well, there's many reasons out there, but on this conversation, we're talking about eating too frequently, right? So eating every 2 to 3 hours, never allowing your body to go through that recycling of process of autophagy, and then eating too many carbohydrates, processed junk. We know the body, every culture in the history of this world went through periods of ketosis. Every single culture, because their environment forced that. And it's a survival mechanism, and it's a very powerful process. And they didn't do it by eating a whole bunch of fat. They did it through fasting, because that's one of the best ways to get into ketosis is just not eat anything. Your body will start tapping into its fat reserves, which is the entire reason we store fat, producing ketones to sustain the brain, which we talked about earlier, right? And then your body is going through this cleaning process. So this conversation is so important because fasting is free. And I did the math for people because people always say, yeah, I can't afford to eat healthier or spend money on organic. And I understand that, and definitely do the best with what you've got. But once you start fasting, you're saving money because you're skipping breakfast, right? And I did the math for people because if you spend $15 every single morning, Monday through Friday, on breakfast, and you decided to do intermittent fasting Monday through Friday, you get back $3,900 each year. Okay,
Wow.
If you spent 20 minutes on time preparing and eating breakfast, you'd get back 2.5 days. So you get time back, you get money back. It's a free tool. You pair it with keto, and your body reduces inflammation naturally.
That's pretty amazing. I love that. You're a mathematician. So,
Thanks.
the thing that, you're saying is by also is, you're saving time. And the thing is how so many people are concerned about how am I going to not eat, or how do I give up my sugar? I'm afraid of that type of thing. So what has been your experience with people you put through this?
Yeah, when you do it the right way, the way that we teach it, there's a gradual decrease in carbohydrates and a gradual increase in protein and fat. We're teaching the body to start utilizing fatty acids for fuel. We have the 2-2-2-2 rule, right? Where we have these specific fats, oils, even some sea salt to really help with this transition. And I could tell you this, I have my Keto Camp Academy, which is my online program. I have over 230 members in there, and they've all gone through this process. I have a 28-day keto jumpstart. Not one of them has experienced the keto flu or any kind of symptoms because they've done it the right way. And it's the way that we teach it. So there's a gradual decrease in the carbohydrates. And once you become metabolically flexible, meaning you went from burning sugar, glucose, to now tapping into fat and producing ketones, and you could go back and forth without a problem, then you really have nothing to worry about. It's such a burden off of your shoulders when you don't have to worry about when the next meal is going to come, or you're on an airplane, you're traveling. Oh my God, what am I going to eat at that meeting, at that conference? Your body has a choice once you're fat adapted. You could get your calories from that plate of food in front of you or that protein bar, or you could get it from your hips or your thighs. It's really your choice, and you have the power to choose then.
Wow, that's amazing. So this is Dr. Duncan McCollum. I'm talking with Ben Azadi from the Keto Camp. And Ben, tell us how to get a hold of you.
Yeah, the best place is going to be on YouTube, my YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com/ketocamp. And then if you listen to podcasts, go to the Keto Camp podcast.
Oh, fantastic. It's kind of interesting. I'm writing a book, on sciatica. It's called A New Hope for Sciatica, and it will be coming out in the beginning of next month. But doing some of the research in it, I'm explaining, how inflammation is caused by toxins. Chronic inflammation is caused by the toxins we get in the food, and then let alone the toxins that we get through our mother, 4 generations down through, her umbilical blood, anything from mercury to lead to 270 other chemicals. And all these toxins, especially since they're stored in our fat cells, when we're breaking down fat, these toxins get into the body and can increase our inflammation. They can increase our symptoms at first if we don't do this correctly. So being able to go through a program like you have your 28-day program, we're doing our 7-week program coming up here starting March 18th, and we'll be in the Capitola Mall, Suite E07, right across from Victoria's Secrets. I think that the women know where that is. I don't know if the guys do. And then also across from AT&T. But at any rate, I was looking up ketones. I wanted to get a good definition of ketones, and I looked it up in Webster's dictionary, and they said, ketones are what your body burns when it doesn't have enough glucose. That was the definition. And I'm going, even the dictionary says, don't ever not have enough glucose in your body, because you sure as heck don't want to burn a ketone, and so that whole concept has to change. We got to realize that your body should be burning ketones because they burn clean. The brain loves to burn ketones. Cancer can't live off ketones. And, it's stored fat. It's fuel, like you were saying, that's there to be used, not sitting there dormant, causing disease.
Yeah, people say keto is a fad. It's a fad diet when it's not. It's a fact. It's been around since humans have been around. The real fad diet is the stupid American diet, which only has been around for 70 to 80 years. Keto has been around for thousands, hundreds of thousands of years. So we need to really look back and see what really is the fad diet. The dictionary has it completely wrong, because if you understand anything about human physiology and you just look at what a cell does. Let's compare a cell that burns sugar and glucose. I already said it's like a Mack truck, right? But let's look at it from like a human physiology standpoint. If you look at a cell through a lens that's burning sugar and all the byproducts that are created after burning glucose and sugar, it's a long list, right? Then you take that cell, teach it to burn fat, ketones, and have the body produce ketones. It's a shorter list of byproducts. So it's a much efficient fuel source. And just looking at that, I would choose the path that's more efficient, that's less work for my cells. It's going to produce less smoke within our cells. So we know that ketones are so anti-inflammatory. They turn on longevity genes. I mean, you listed so many benefits right there. One of my favorite benefits personally is what it does for my brain. We know the brain is a fatty organ. It's about 80% fat, and it prefers fat. So much so that when babies are born and if they're getting breastfed, they're in ketosis because breast milk has saturated fat and cholesterol, which helps that baby produce ketones to help development of that brain. So that's my favorite benefit. If you're somebody who wants more clear thinking, mental focus, less brain fog, then producing ketones is where it's at.
That's awesome. I love the concept that when you burn ketones, it's a clean fuel. And I think that so many of the people in the United States, if not around the world, their body just does not know how to burn a ketone. I always kind of put my arms up like this and go, if you're burning this much sugar and this much ketones, what we want to do is try to get it to a point where your body can shift from fuel to fuel, just like one of those, smart cars. And I kind of have the analogy of, you ever watch American Pickers? You ever seen that show? These
No.
guys go around the country looking in barns for all these old relics. And I almost imagine these guys walking into a barn and going, my gosh, Joe, look at that. What is it? It's a ketone burner, And it's like this old John Deere ketone burner with a pull start, and you pull it and pull it, and finally it starts chugging. And if a little bit at a time, that thing gets more efficient. So pretty soon that thing's humming. And that's like our body. It doesn't know how to burn a ketone. It doesn't even know what a ketone is. So the process, and where people run into trouble is they hear about the diet, they jump on the internet, they pull down some recipes or they pull down some shopping lists, and then they start and they get sick and they get in trouble, and they're eating what we call dirty ketone diets that are probably the worst thing you can do. And you can actually cause damage that way. And so what are your thoughts about how do people find, what do you see out there with people trying this the wrong way? And then how do we guide them the right way?
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword because I love that keto is popular because more people are starting to see that the body can heal with ketones. But with that being said, it's popular, so there's a lot of misinformation out there. So if somebody goes on Dr. Google and they type in, what is the keto diet? They're going to get over 100 million results. It's going to be very conflicting information. So dirty keto, I'm passionate about kind of exposing dirty keto because yes, you can eat dirty keto and technically get into ketosis. And you can't see me, but I'm doing air quotes here, but you're not going to reduce inflammation. You're not going to heal the body. You'll be in ketosis, but you're not going to get the results you want. So what is dirty keto? Well, first and foremost, it's the inflammatory fats, like the vegetable oils that we talk about a lot. So canola oil, corn oil, soybean oil, cottonseed oil, peanut oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil. All these oils are inflammatory to our cells. And studies show that they could sit in our cells, in our cell membrane for up to 132 days, causing inflammation around our cells. Yes, they're all keto, but they're not healthy keto. So what is healthier fats? Avocado oil, olive oil, coconut oil, grass-fed butter, grass-fed ghee. These are much healthier for our cells. The saturated fat are important for our cell membrane. So that's a healthier version of keto. Something else I've noticed, Duncan, is those who get into the keto diet, they start eating all these cheeses and dairy and pasteurized dairy. And most people have some sort of sensitivity to dairy. And if you're eating a lot of cheese and drinking milk, yeah, you might get into ketosis, but it's going to increase inflammation. So I love more raw grass-fed dairy if you're going to have it. But even so, for the first 28 days in my program, I recommend eliminating all dairy, eliminating all inflammatory fats, and other specific things. I even have spinach and almonds on the list just for the first 28 days because they're higher in oxalates. I don't think, let me just clarify this. I don't think spinach and almonds are dirty keto, but I do see some bump in results when you just get rid of it for 28 days. But the dirty keto are the inflammatory fats, the trans fats, the sucralose, the aspartame, and the pasteurized dairy.
So what you were saying, I want to go back to that for a minute. When you go out and you have a meal, maybe you go to a Mexican restaurant and eat their chips that are probably fried in something terrible, and you might have the refried beans that have some kind of bad oils in them. We assimilate that stuff into our body. Those oils get transferred through our blood to our cells, and they become part of the cell wall.
Exactly.
And then how long does that oil last in those cells?
132 days.
132 days. So that's like almost 4 months.
Yeah, 4.5 months. So 5 minutes of pleasure, about 5 months of dysfunction.
Well, I think I've done that before,
Ditto.
more ways than not in my life. So I think that any way that I can learn how not to do that is a good idea. So we want to stay, in this case, we want to stay away from those oils. That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. And you make a good point, because when you're at restaurants, pretty much every restaurant's going to use this inflammatory fat. So you got to tell them you're allergic to those vegetable oils and ask them, request to use an olive oil or a butter. And most of the time they'll do it.
So that's a good point. So if you go into a restaurant and you say, hey, I don't want this and that, they may or may not pay any attention. But if you say I'm allergic to it, they don't want you going into anaphylactic shock there. So they're going to actually do what you are asking. And quite honestly, they are allergic to it.
Yes, you're not lying.
It might be that it's going to kill you a lot in a very slow, death, but it is killing you to eat that stuff. And what we're trying to do is get people to understand, what foods to eat and what foods not to eat. I always say, if you pick up a can or a package or a box of food and there are words on it that you can't pronounce or understand, don't eat it. Put it down. And we even go one step further now. We go, look, if it didn't have dirt on it at some point, don't eat it.
Great advice. Yeah, I love that. And you know what? It's crazy, because with keto being so popular, there's going to be a lot of items that say keto friendly, keto approved, but you got to do what Duncan just said and turn over. Stop looking at the front label, because that's going to trick you, but look at the ingredients. And if there's something you can't read, if something that was not grown in the dirt, then it's probably not a good idea for you to consume that.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So when you take people through your 28-day program, is this something you do this online, right?
Yeah, it's an online program. It's called the Keto Kamp Academy. I have 4 pillars. The first pillar is the Adapt pillar, which is 28 days, and it teaches them from being a sugar burner to going into becoming a fat burner.
Uh-huh. And that's the most important thing, because if they can't their body can't learn to burn fat within that amount of time, then we don't want them to try to go the next step, because then they're inevitably going to have trouble.
Yeah, exactly. That's the way. I know your 7-week program teaches it that way, because it's important to get familiar, teach your body to be familiar with burning fat before you do any kind of fasting, essentially. I mean, definitely don't want to go into a block fast if you haven't done the work. So the way we teach it is to do the work. It's kind of like a muscle. Fasting is like a muscle that you want to develop over time, and you start with getting keto adapted the way that you're teaching it. Then you pair intermittent fasting, and then eventually you do your block fast or a variation of it. And that's how you can maximize your results, maximize your autophagy, and minimize any of your risks.
Yeah, and I think kind of what you were saying there, in a way, lets us understand that this is not a diet; it's a lifestyle change. When Dr. Pompa came out with this diet a little over a year ago, with the this dynamic workshop that I'm doing, and you're doing your variation of it. It was such a neat concept to put all of these ancient healing strategies together. The ketogenic diet that, like you say, has been around forever, and sometimes out of necessity. It's not because our ancestors were thinking, gee, I need to go into ketosis today. That's all there was to eat, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is fats, healthy fats and stuff. And then, the intermittent fasting, where sometimes there was not anything to eat. So one of the things too that I notice is, let's get back to the point of, over that first introductory period, some people have trouble getting past that point. And we know that there's, 5 or 6 things that could actually be a problem for them. They're either in their portions, they might be eating not enough carbohydrates or too much, not enough fat or too much. They might just be toxic, and the body's not going to dump a fat cell full of toxins into that person's bloodstream and make them sick. Years ago, when I started doing this, back in around 2000, when DNA was unraveled for the first time, we were really looking at this. And, I would see people in the first of the year, they go, okay, I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to get healthy. Some people would immediately go to the gym, get sick, and then go, well, I'm there. I don't have to go now. I'm sick. Other people would go, I'm there, but I don't lose any weight. And my thought process back then was, well, if you're going to the gym and you're overweight and you get on the treadmill and your body goes, okay, stupid. You want to lose some weight. I'm going to dump enough toxins in your body from these fat cells so that you'll get sick, and then I don't have to work hard anymore. So the body gets you sick so you don't have to work anymore. The other end, you've got so many toxins in your fat cells, your body goes, if I dump this fat cell and all these toxins in that person's body, that person, we're going to get sick, and I don't want to be sick. So those are the two extremes of what we see when people are just even trying to do the intermittent fasting or the ketogenic diet when their body's not set up for it. So in those cases, we know what to do. We can take the person that's getting sick, and I guess you can call it the keto flu these days, and we can help figure out what steps they're doing incorrectly, back them off, or decide, hey, we got to do something to help heal your gut first. Maybe you've got some problems with your digestive system, and we're not even ready to skip meals. We got to heal that first. So what have you experienced in that realm?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The toxins, it all roads lead to toxins here because the body is so smart that when toxins enter the system from breathing it, putting on our skin, eating it, the body does not want those toxins to enter our vital organs, our brain, our heart. So it's going to actually activate something called the PPAR gamma pathway. It's going to create a new stem cell, which those toxins could go into. And now it's this new fat cell for these toxins now to have a new home, right? It's protecting the organs and it's giving the toxins a home to live in. And we actually enlarge fat cells. We create new fat cells, and these toxins, they live in there. Then we start doing a healthier lifestyle like keto and fasting. We start burning fat. Well, the body cannot burn toxins. It could burn fat. So where does the toxins go? You said it. It goes into the bloodstream, and you feel like crap. So that's why detoxification, real, true cellular detoxification, is so important. When you add that component, which you teach in your 7-week program, when you add that component to a variation of keto and fasting, that's a trifecta right there. Because if you don't have all the tools in your toolbox, you're going to be missing an important component, and you're just not going to get the results you want. So yes, toxins are everywhere. It's not getting any better. It's getting worse, and the body will do anything it can do to survive. And that's one of the processes right there.
Yeah, and I know, Ben, I know that you have to go here pretty quick, but I really appreciate you coming on. I think that, it's really important for people to understand that you can find so much stuff on the internet, and it's sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But if your health is involved, and we're really talking about the longevity, you and I are really devoted to helping people reverse their biological clock. We want to not only help them feel healthier now and get some of the inflammation out of their body now, but we do know that fasting actually will help lengthen these things called telomeres. We know that by getting the inflammation out of our body, this thing called chronic age-related diseases, are going to stop plaguing us to the degree they are. And we can maybe talk about this, and I know you got to go, but age-related disease, it's the same DNA from the day we're born to the day we die. How come all of a sudden at a certain age, it used to be 50, now it's 40, now we're seeing people in their 30s getting colon cancer? How come, what's causing this to happen, in your estimation, that the age-related diseases are getting younger and younger and younger?
Yeah, it's epigenetics. We're turning on these bad genes because of our lifestyle behaviors, the toxins, the processed foods, the vegetable oil. So the way that genes work is that they load the gun, right? We cannot change the genes that we're born with. So we're dealt those deck of cards. We cannot change it. So they load the gun, but then we determine whether or not we want to pull the trigger on that gun. So our decisions that we make every day, and it's not just our food decisions or the toxins, is also our thoughts. We could create inflammation by having negative, hateful thoughts. So it's just a storm of things that happen that turn on that gene. And when that gene gets turned on, then like you said, disease starts to occur. And it's happening in younger people. We went from having adult onset diabetes to now renaming it to type 2 diabetes because children are having it. We have children who are being born with cancer, children being born on the autism spectrum. And there's no coincidence that as our lifestyle behavior changes more on a negative path, these diseases are occurring more and more often. So we have control over these genes. So this should be an empowering message because we could turn off those genes as well. Just like the light switch I have here, turn it on and turn it off. So once we start focusing on the foundational aspects of health, everything we just spoke about, we start turning off the bad genes, turning on the good genes, and we extend our telomeres, like you said, and we extend our life. And that's the way to do it.
Great. Hey, man, thank you so much. Again, this has been Azadi. Ben, tell us where you're located, how people can find you, and any parting words that you wish to put out.
Yeah, Duncan, thank you for having me on here. I love the work that you're doing. I'm grateful to be on this mission with you, brother, and with Dr. Pomp and the rest of the Platinum Doctors. YouTube.com/Keto Kamp. And if you're listening, I know you're listening, Kamp with a K. Just type in Keto Kamp on YouTube. That's probably the best place. If you want to learn more about my programs, you could go to benazadi.com. You could see more of my work, but those, and then Keto Kamp podcast. And the closing words I would say is that you got a great, valuable resource right here with Duncan. You know, if you love the work that he's sharing, if you love his personality, take his course. In 7 weeks, you're just going to be astonished to what the body can do. In 7 weeks, you'll see great healing. You'll see great results. He's done it time after time after time. So I would say take action, because the world does not reward intention. The world rewards action. So if you're thinking about it, take action and the world will reward you. And I want to say thank you for having me on here, Duncan.
Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate it, Ben. We'll do it another time.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so we're going to go to a break. This is Dr. Duncan McCollum, and I wanted to invite you to my next workshop. It's going to start March 18th, and that is going to be in the Capitola Mall, Suite E07, and it's right up next to AT&T. It will be the beginning of our next 7-week program, and we would love to have you on. Come join us. It's Dr. Duncan McCollum. Phone number is 831-459-9990. And that's Dr. Duncan McCollum, McCollum Family Chiropractic, 831-459-9990. All right, so we're back. And this is Dr. Duncan. We just were interviewing Ben Azadi, and he had to go. Really glad that he was here. Got him for a short minute of time. And we've been talking about one of my favorite subjects, and that is the intermittent fasting ketogenic diet. And I am so excited to have been doing this program for over almost 16 months now since we started, since it rolled out in January of 2019. We've taken well over 100 people through the course with amazing results, and I would love to invite you to come attend that course with us. So we're talking about intermittent fasting and the ketogenic diet, and the course that I put together via some teachings from Dr. Dan Pompa is called the Cellular Healing Lifestyle. It's a 7-week course that walks you through, first and foremost, having you take a look at how many meals how many times you're putting something in your mouth every day. Believe it or not, every time you put a food in your mouth, it's going to cause your body to produce insulin. That insulin is going to start to create this whole cycle where your body's putting on fat. So the first thing we want to do is count how many times you actually put food in your mouth. You'll be surprised. A lot of times it's 14, 15 times a day you're putting a snack in your mouth. So it's important that we get you to stop snacking. The first week or two, we're having you just eat 3 keto-friendly meals a day. Then we're going to teach you how to skip 1 meal a day and do it in a way that you don't even know that you missed it. And it's an amazing program. It's going to help you get the inflammation out of your body. It's going to help your brain function better. It's going to help you get rid of brain fog, as well as the aches and pains from the inflammation. So we do know that almost every newspaper that comes out talking about the cause of disease, they all say the cause of chronic disease is chronic inflammation. So if chronic inflammation is causing chronic disease, what do we need to get rid of? We need to get rid of chronic inflammation. So we can do that a couple different ways. We can try to find an herb or a supplement or even a drug to decrease the inflammation. But if you're not ever getting to the source, you're never going to get well. So, I take a look at, I mentioned this earlier today, if you were listening, but if you had a boat and you're floating it down a river and there's water coming into the boat from a hole in the bottom, and you need to bail it out, you could use a bucket, steel bucket, man-made, or you could use a wooden bowl, which might be equated to herbs and supplements, where the metal bowl or the bucket is more relating to medicine. either way, whether you're taking supplements, herbs, vitamins, or medicine, you're still bailing out the boat and you're not plugging the hole. So when we look at regenerative medicine and how to actually get your body healthy, we're looking at how to actually fix the problem, which would be the hole in the boat. So those are the principles that we teach in the workshop, and it starts 18th of March, 831-459-9990. It's a 7-week stenomic workshop, or we call it the Cellular Healing Lifestyle Workshop. And we're going to teach you, your body, how to actually use 2 fuels instead of just sugar. And sugar is glucose. All foods from French fries to broccoli to protein burn is sugar, and it burns very smoky, very inflammatory. And it basically, if you allow that to float around in your body, that inflammation becomes chronic inflammation, which becomes the cause of disease. So we're going to teach your body how to actually learn how to burn ketones, which is actually pretty cool. Ketones come from the fat you eat. We're going to teach you how to eat healthy fats. We're going to show you how to have fats in the morning instead of a meal, and that those fats are going to actually help your body create energy. They're going to burn those fats as ketones. Your brain fog is going to go away. You're going to feel so much younger and so much healthier that you're going to want to continue this as a lifestyle. So I just recommend that you check it out. Talk to people. You've heard about this course probably. If you listen to KSCO, you've heard me speaking about this for the last couple of years. Well, this is your chance to really take advantage of it. Show up on November 18th. We'd love to have a big class. We just finished one last week. We had probably 6 people or 7 do the 5-day water fast at the end of the class. The success stories that they stood up and talked about were phenomenal. I mean, one guy started, when he first found out he was diabetic, he was driving his car, and all of a sudden he got dizzy and blurry and he had to pull over. They went to the hospital and his blood glucose was 500. It's supposed to be under 100. So he's been a diabetic for the last couple of years. I think it's been 5 years. 7 weeks on our program, he's off his medication and his blood sugar is down to 90 from he wasn't 500 when he came in. He was probably in the high 190s. So the point is that we do work with your medical doctors. A lot of them aren't really sure what we're doing. There's some stigma out there that the keto diet may be unsafe, and it can be unsafe just like anything if you don't know what you're doing. So coming and getting trained the right way on how to actually do this would be fantastic. Again, this is Dr. Duncan McCollum. This is Stepping In. And I'm so excited to be starting my 2nd course of the year. That is the intermittent fasting course. It's called the Cellular Healing Diet, or Cellular Healing Lifestyle, put together by Dr. Dan Pompa. And in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say good night or goodbye for the day, and we're going to go out listening to Dr. Dan Pompa talk about this course and why you should do it. And again, the number is 831-459-9990. We'd love to have you be part of our course. Call the office. It's a 7-week course. It's going to be Wednesday night, March 18th at the mall across from AT&T, or next to AT&T, across from Victoria's Secret, Suite E07. And you can call my office to sign up for it, 831-459-9990. I guarantee you're going to have a lot of fun. You're going to learn more about health than you ever have in a long time. And we'd be so happy to have you there. So you all have a great time. Here we go with Dr. Dan Pompa.